A very good morning to all of you. Welcome back to the channel. So let's start with today's analysis video for 25th of July 2023. So we see that government it is ready for discussion on Manipur and Union Home Minister tells the Parliament. So we see that from 20th of July the monsoon session is begin, and we are seeing that opposition is trying to disrupt the functioning of the Parliament, and here we see that they are demanding that they want a suo motu statement from the Prime Minister on the situation in the state before the discussion can start. So they troop into the well of the Lok Sabha and they hold placards. So they are basically not letting the Parliament function. And because of this, Speaker had to adjourn the House for the day. And our leader suspended for the session. So basically, you need to firstly be clear कि अगर Speaker of the House adjourns the House, then उसके क्या implication होते हैं. उसके अलावा prorogation and adjournment इसमें difference पता होना चाहिए. उसके अलावा you can see that our leader has been suspended for the session. So what can be the grounds and who has the authority? Again, इसके क्या implications होंगे? And then in the broader context, you need to know about the role of opposition in a democracy. So these can be some other dimensions of this topic. And then when we talk about the sessions of the parliament, so the basic concepts and the factual things that obviously needs to be clear. Moving forward, so Israel's controversial judicial reform bill gets the parliament note. So we've been seeing कि Israel में protest हो रहे थे, and the main reason was judicial reforms. So people were not happy with the proposed reforms and they were protesting on the streets. So Israel's hard right government, it pushed through the parliament a key clause of the controversial judicial reform package, despite months of mass protest and concerns voiced by the foreign allies. So Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, and his coalition allies, they have approved the bill. So critics charge the judicial revamp, it will undermine Israel's liberal democracy by removing the checks and balances on the executive, while government argues it needs to curb the judicial overreach. So here you can basically relate this topic somewhere to India as well when you talk about judicial activism and judicial overreach. So what is the minor difference between them? And then you need to also know about the instances for the respective areas. Then government approves 8.15% interest rate for PF deposits in 2022-23. Here we're talking about EPFO, Employees Provident Fund Organization, to increase the interest rate of the deposits in the Provident Fund to 8.15%. So the CBT, it had recommended an increase to 8.15% from 8.1%. So that is the minor increase in the interest rate, and EPFO, through an official order, it had instructed its field officers to credit the interest into the accounts of the members. So you can also okay, that this is like a basic thing you need to know about EPFO, and basically its history. And then what has been the trend when we talk about the EPFO or the PF subscribers. Then the Supreme Court stays the ASI scientific survey at the Gyanvapi Mosque till tomorrow evening. So it had ordered the Archaeological Survey of India to maintain status quo regarding the Gyanvapi Mosque management breathing time to approach the Allahabad High Court against an order of the Varanasi District Court to conduct a scientific survey of the mosque premises located next to the Kashi Vishwanath temple. So that's the reason why it is being stayed by the Supreme Court. Moving forward, so happiness curriculum की अगर हम बात करें, this is always in the context of the Delhi Union Territory, and this was introduced in their education system. So basically you can understand कि actually इसके पीछे idea क्या रहा and क्या इसका impact रहा, जो intended objectives थे क्या वो fulfill हो पाए after 5 years of its implementation or not. So This event it marks a significant milestone in the journey of empowering the students to explore their potential, wisdom, and emotional intelligence. So through the daily 30 minutes happiness classes organized की जाती है in the Delhi's government schools, and they've not only learned the importance of relationships, but also to express their emotions. So basically, through this happiness curriculum or the happiness classes, they are promoting the soft skills in children. Then talking about Srinagar and Jammu, so Gujjars and Bakkawals, they are going to hit the streets over the scheduled tribe tag for the Pahadis. So some, I would say some similar kind of concerns were the reason behind ethnic violence in Manipur as well. Obviously, the tribes would be different, but the reason was the same, giving ST status to the majority community of Manipur, that is the Metis. So tribal community obviously was not agreeing to this decision by the High Court. So then we saw the ethnic violence beginning in the state of Manipur. So herein similar kind of situation is emerging even in the UT of Jammu and Kashmir. So social security for gig workers in Rajasthan. See, this is not just important in the context of the state of Rajasthan, but overall pan-India level pay when we talk about the gig economy. So kya concerns hai of the gig workers, the people who are working in the gig economy, who are gig workers, kya benefits are working in gig economy? Ye basic cheez aapko pata honi chahiye. Apart from this, do we have laws in order to regulate the rights of the gig workers or not, ensuring their safety? And some recent amendments if they've been introduced by the government or not. So this must be known, and there's like proper debate about the gig economy. So that is an important topic. Moving forward to another topic. So ISRO is going to launch the PSLV C-56 carrying Singapore's new imaging satellite. So this is an important topic from science and technology. So the launch vehicle is configured in its core alone mode, similar to that of C-55, and it will launch the DSSAR, which is a 360 kg satellite, into the near equatorial orbit. So the synthetic aperture radar payload in the satellite will provide all weather day and night coverage. So ये सबसे बड़ा benefit है जब हम बात करते हैं synthetic aperture radar के बारे में कि it would be making us available all weather day and night coverage, and there are no major challenges to the coverage that will be provided by this technology. Coming to editorial page, so an avoidable controversy over the sample survey. So let's understand this. This is somewhere related to the statistics. So there are controversy recently over how sound data collection procedures in India are, especially when it comes to some of the important national level surveys. So obviously, ये surveys बहुत important role play करते हैं because the way they are being carried out, and again, the quality of the surveys, the transparency, then sample survey का जो size रहता है, sample size, ये सारी चीजें इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाती है बिकॉज कहीं ना कहीं फिर जो डेटा दैट इज कलेक्टेड एंड लेटर इट इज इंटरप्रेटेड, तो जो क्वालिटी ऑफ डेटा कलेक्ट किया जाता है, किस प्रोसीजर से कलेक्ट किया जा रहा है, वो कहीं ना कहीं इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करता है एंड रिजल्ट में. एंड ऑब्वियसली वी नो कि डेटा इट इज एन इम्पॉर्टेंट सोर्स ऑफ फर्दर व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट आगे जाके जो पॉलिसीज बनाई जाती है, स्कीम्स बनाई जाती हैं. तो that's why sample surveys जो we recently there's been a whole debate about this. So it is important जब हम quality of data collection की बात करते हैं तो. And so जब हम बात करते हैं soundness of the data collection procedures, so here the surveys which are under question includes the National Sample Survey, National Family Health Survey, the Periodic Labor Force Survey. So these are some of the surveys. Apart from this, so it's important to re-emphasize the point that all the surveys listed they do adopt scientific sample designs. So this is widely acknowledged even at the international level also. However, there can be no denying the fact that there is always a scope for improvement of the sample designs. So क्या improvements required हैं, किस तरीके से वो improvements की जा सकती हैं, ये हमारा focus होना चाहिए. So in fact, the sample designs of the NSS, they have undergone periodic revisions from due deliberations in the meetings and then the final approval by the National Statistical Commission, all of that. So these committees and bodies, they have been chaired by or they have had as their members some of the most eminent economists, statisticians, and demographers that India has ever produced. Then आपको पता होना चाहिए important personalities के बारे में जो इंडिया में renowned statisticians रहे हैं, economists रहे हैं, इनका क्या role रहा है. Then talking about the bias in the population estimation. So on the issue of an underestimation, the proportion of the urban population or about overestimation of the proportion of rural population in the surveys, it's important to remember that the sample designs of the NSS or the PLFS, they are not aimed at estimating the number of households kitne ya population kitni hai. Instead, they are meant primarily to estimate major socio-economic indicators that relate to subject of interest. So unka jo sole motive, it is not, the sole motive is not to count the number of households या total population कितनी है, उसके लिए different census किया जाता है. But जो ये survey है, इनका जो main objective है, that is to focus on the socio-economic indicators, वहाँ पे performance को assess करना कि how we have been performing, whether improvement हुई है या फिर basically the performance has worsened or not. So वो focus area रहता है. So estimates of the number of the households or population, they are auxiliary information. So data users, they appropriately adjust the survey-based estimates separately for the rural and urban areas के लिए बाद में उनको accordingly adjust किया जाता है by using the projected population figures based on the census. So talking about the room for improvement, so sample design and data quality, they are two different components of a survey. So दोनों different, obviously it's very clear जब आप data quality की बात कर रहे हो या sample design की बात कर रहे हो. So both are important, and जब हम बात करते हैं कि it comes to sample design, so a lot of care is taken generally by adopting a scientific sample design in these surveys. So scientific method को हम follow करते हुए आ रहे हैं. However, जब हम बात करते हैं sampling frame की, so given the apprehension over inadequate representation, the rich households. So this is one of the concerns जब sampling frame में concern ये है कि जो rich households हैं, they are inadequately represented. So it may be worth exploring whether list of such households, it can be developed by, tapping the alternative sources and covering a representative sample of them. And then further, it may be worth examining the coverage also. And given the extent of the underestimation, the urban population, so we can basically second improvement जो हम कर सकते हैं, that can be in expanding the coverage of these surveys and and the aspect of the training of field personnel, field inspection, concurrent data validation, and publicity measures. It can be strengthened to improve the quality of primary data, which is most crucial in any survey. So primary data सबसे ज़्यादा important है, तो उसके लिए हमें जो field personnel हैं उनकी training पर और काम करना चाहिए. Field inspection needs to be strengthened, concurrent data validation and publicity measures. इन सब पे हमें improve करने की ज़रूरत है. And finally, while there's always hope for the improvement of the survey results, so criticizing all the large-scale official surveys on the ground that they do not capture the improvements adequately, it is akin to throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So you can't just simply criticize by saying this thing and improve किए जा सकते हैं survey results, but again उसके पीछे क्या आपको required है, कहाँ improvements हम कर सकते हैं, वहाँ पे focus करने की ज़रूरत है, rather than simply saying कि basically जो actual results हैं या जो improvements है वो capture नहीं की जा रही है by the different surveys. So India-Sri Lanka ties still incomplete. So India ties with Sri Lanka, they are bound by the Tamil question. So जो कुछ concerns हैं between India and Sri Lanka, obviously one of them is the Tamil question. 13th Amendment ka implementation, then provincial elections to carry out them in free and fair manner. These are some of the concerns which are shared by India. So with a joint statement, the economic cooperation India-Sri Lanka outlined a forward-looking vision for the relations. Statement entitled Promoting Connectivity, Catalyzing Prosperity, India-Sri Lanka Economic Partnership Vision. So we are going to work more on improving the connectivity between the two countries. Apart from this, basically we'll be focusing upon the 5 areas that includes maritime, air, energy, trade and people-to-people initiatives. Then new investments would be done in the maritime and air connectivity, which will involve developing ports and airports in Sri Lanka and resuming the ferry services, expanding the flight networks to connect the Tamil Nadu and Sri Lanka's northern and eastern provinces. This will be there, and surge in the energy connectivity when we talk about, even selling of electricity. So electricity trade that can be explored, renewable energy, obviously, that is one of the focus areas, widely speaking. So both hope to increase the trade and continue India's support for the Sri Lanka's economy that crashed last year, is slowly working out its debt restructuring process. Then UPI payments, they can be like made available in Sri Lanka. And so these are the things when we talk about India-Sri Lanka relations. ASEAN ki baat kare to it's a persistence with dialogue and on a trodden path. So Southeast Asia is the heart of the Indo-Pacific. So 56 foreign ministers meeting of the ASEAN, which is the post-ministerial conferences and other related regional meetings. They were held in Jakarta, Indonesia in mid-July 2023. They are the best barometer to check on the region's latest dynamics. So यहाँ से हम थोड़ा और we can understand कि latest क्या developments हैं, क्या dynamics हैं. Specifically about Southeast Asia या Indo-Pacific की अगर हम बात करें, तो vision क्या है, challenges क्या हैं. So in-depth study अगर हम करें, the various outcomes of the documents, particularly अगर हम joint communique की बात करें, which is an indicator of the ASEAN's brave attempts to navigate through the transformative changes in the present decade. So इसमें basically हम बात करेंगे impact of COVID-19 pandemic, economic slowdown, Ukraine war, climate change, and above all, the Cold War type confrontation between United States and China. So this is in the context of Taiwan Strait में जो Cold War type of tensions are increasing between the two countries. So Indonesia is the current chair of ASEAN. So the vision is creating a political community that ensures regional peace and a just, democratic, and harmonious environment, an economic community focused on achieving a well-integrated and connected regional economy within the global economic system, and a socio-cultural community to enhance the quality of life of ASEAN citizens as well as sustainable development of the region. So you can see कि how basically keywords कैसे use किए गए हैं, क्या language है of the sentences, क्या tone है. So you need to understand this as well. Moving forward, so here we see, so there are two critical ingredients that promote the unity and centrality. So first is that it should maintain its credibility by adhering to the ASEAN Charter. Obviously, that needs to be adhered to. Second is it should stay in the driver's seat while navigating the regional dynamics. So regional dynamics, basically, Ukraine war की वजह से भी how things have reshaped, they've realigned. That is one thing. China की growing assertiveness in the region, 9-9 के around जो issue है. Then China is also trying to increase its cooperation with other countries, which includes Philippines as well. उसके अलावा, construction of artificial islands by China, that is another concern. So these are few areas, and Taiwan Strait, obviously, that is one of the emerging concerns in the Indo-Pacific region. So these are all the latest developments and dynamics when we talk about Indo-Pacific. So talking about India's role, so जो भी topic आप read कर रहे हो या फिर you're trying to analyze things, so हमेशा you need to think about कि इंडिया का क्या रोल हो सकता है या इंडिया का क्या रोल रहा है, how that thing is important for India, या आगे आने वाले time में how can basically India contribute more. So in the context of ASEAN या Indo-Pacific, so what has been India's role, what is going to be India's role, how India can strengthen its presence. So these are some of the important dynamics related to India. So let's understand this thing. So significance of ASEAN meeting to India is apparent when viewed in the context of external affairs ministers preferring to represent India at the post-ministerial conference and other regional dialogues instead of accompanying the Prime Minister on his visits to France and UAE earlier in July. So he pointedly referred to the importance of strong and unified ASEAN in the emerging dynamic of the Indo-Pacific. So this was emphasized by India, and we also highlighted convergence between the AOIP and India's Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. Then, to build on the comprehensive strategic partnership between India and ASEAN, again, the Minister of External Affairs suggested the two sides they work in newer areas like cyber, financial, and maritime security domains. So, यहाँ पे again, future role India का क्या हो सकता है in the context of Southeast Asia? We need to strengthen our partnership in areas, the newly emergent areas that can be like cybersecurity. In finance, we can collaborate more in maritime security. So these are some of the domains where we can improve and strengthen our cooperation and collaboration and the relationship. So though it appeared that ASEAN did not make much progress and no new ground that was broken, and is persistent with the dialogue internally, externally, it prevents the geopolitical temperatures from rising. So next ASEAN summit that will be held in Jakarta in September this year. Hopefully this will bring greater clarity on the way to tackle challenges confronting this region. So definitely this is one of the most important topics. So again, your understanding needs to be clear on all different nuances related to it. So a big step in reducing the risk of disasters. So this here, India's initiative, one good news is that countries, they're finally coming around to value of disaster risk reduction, because we are seeing across the world globally how basically disasters are impacting economically, they're taking people's life, how they're destroying the infrastructure. So again, different countries now they are basically trying to understand, or now they are actually understanding how this can be controlled. So which India, we can see it as elevated its priority for G20 through its presidency of the group. So here, basically through it, India is trying to, press upon this point or promote it more or emphasize upon this more. So specifically, when we talk about India has established the first G20 disaster risk reduction working group. So the G20 countries that together make up around 85% of the global GDP, about 2/3 of the world population. So as human vulnerability to disasters that is strongly linked to the economic decisions also, G20, it is in a unique position to chart a new path of disaster risk informed decision making. So this is the key word, disaster risk informed decision making. And this means not only considering potential impact here on the economic decisions on disaster risk, but also leveraging economic tools to reduce existing risk and prevent new ones. सो बेसिकली जब हम बात कर रहे हैं क्लाइमेट चेंज की या जो भी रिस्क इमर्ज हो रहे हैं बिकॉज ऑफ डिफरेंट डिजास्टर्स बिकॉज ऑफ क्लाइमेट चेंज, तो इट इज नॉट जस्ट रिस्ट्रिक्टेड टू ओनली क्लाइमेट चेंज. वहाँ पे हमें इकोनॉमी या इकोनॉमिक डिसीजंस कैसे हेल्प कर सकते हैं इन रिड्यूसिंग दैट रिस्क या प्रिवेंटिंग दैट रिस्क इन फ्यूचर इन द लॉन्ग टर्म. एंड उसके अलावा अगेन जो क्लाइमेट रिस्क है वो कहीं ना कहीं इकोनॉमिक डिसीजंस उनसे लिंक होने चाहिए. So basically, there needs to be interlinkage between different areas when we are talking about climate change and its impact. So we need not see that in isolation. So this wouldn't be something desirable. Early warning systems की बात करें, so expanding the disaster early warning and early action systems, that is again top priority. And inclusive multi-hazard early warning systems, they are among the most effective means of reducing the disaster deaths and the economic loss. So जब हम cyclone Biparjoy की बात करें, effective system for end-to-end early warning and action, it helped to achieve 0 deaths from this event in India. So again, cyclone preparedness, we have seen a lot of progress in India. And jab hum baat kare, even the whole case study of the state of Odisha, how earlier was the situation and how they've been able to improve, kya actions liye gaye. So that is also very significant. So preparedness of the power sector that helped reduce the disruption time in the power supply in the aftermath of the cyclone. So यहाँ पे before the disaster it strikes, so उससे पहले क्या आपका preparedness level है वो बहुत important role play करता है. Then promise of disruptive technologies that can help many countries leapfrog into a regime where they can use the global capacity for forecasting to meet the local needs. And enhancing the resilience of the infrastructure to withstand the climate and the disaster risks, that is another global priority. So enhancing the resilience of the infrastructure. And then India also launched in 2019 the Coalition for Disaster Resilience Infrastructure. So this is also one of the India's initiatives to spur the policy development. Basically, क्या policy होनी चाहिए and how we can improve the resilience of the infrastructure going forward. Capacity support for the disaster resilient infrastructure, especially developing countries, may how they can focus upon these things. So principles for the resilient infrastructure क्या होने वाले हैं? That would be obviously there needs to be a common global standard on all these principles or these areas. And if at this point of time, if we fail to adopt and we fail to understand all these nuances, so obviously there is a potential to multiply losses which disproportionately impact the poor who subsequently take the longest time to recover. Then we need to develop a new approach to financing the disaster risk reduction. So financing भी बहुत important role play करती है, तो financial planning भी होना, financial resources होना हमारे पास in order to deal, in order to reduce the disaster risk. Obviously तभी हम जो end result या जिस भी बारे में हम discuss कर रहे हैं, जिस भी चीज के बारे में we are thinking कि ये हम कर सकते हैं, तो without financial resources that wouldn't be possible. So herein financial management, financial planning also comes into the picture. So G20 nations like Indonesia and India, they have used the risk metrics to allocate resources at the subnational and local levels for disaster risk reduction. So these need to be studied and then scaled further. So building on these areas of work, scaling up the ecosystem-based approaches, enhancing the national and the local response capacities, they will be the responsibility of the next G20 presidents. So to that end, we are delighted to hear that Brazil, which will assume the presidency of G20 in December, has committed to continuing the working group and building on what India has started. So when we talk about the conviction rate in money laundering cases in the last 9 years, it is at 93%. So that's quite appreciable. So trial, it has been completed in 31 of the cases, which resulted in conviction of 54 accused and assets amounting to about rupees 16,000 crores, 16,500 crores have been confiscated. So आपको basically जो basic provisions है regarding PMLA वो भी पता होना चाहिए. सो नेशनल सर्वे अगेन आज हम काफी बात कर चुके हैं. सो यहाँ पे बात हो रही है कि इज देयर अ रूरल बायस इन द नेशनल सर्वेज और नॉट. सो अगेन क्वालिटी ऑफ द सर्वेज कितनी अनबायस तरीके से कैरी आउट किए जाते हैं, क्या उनका सैंपल साइज है, स्केल ऑफ सैंपल साइज क्या है, एंड जब आप रूरल और अर्बन एरियाज के इंडिकेटर्स को सेपरेटली देखते हो, परफॉर्मेंस को सेपरेटली देख रहे हो, सो ऑन व्हाट बेसिस, ऑन व्हाट फैक्टर्स आर यू एक्चुअली डिसाइडिंग कि बेसिकली क्या बेसिस होंगे ऑफ सेपरेटिंग और segregating the data for rural and urban areas separately. So ये कुछ points हैं. So we'll just go through the gist because already हम proper in detail discussion कर चुके हैं. So Government of India recently appointed a panel under the chairmanship of Dr. Pranab Sen to review the methodology of the National Statistical Organization. So पूरा एक we can say overhaul किए जाने की बात की जा रही है. So एक पैनल भी अपॉइंट किया गया है बाय द यूनियन गवर्नमेंट. सो पैनल का जो टास्क रहेगा, जो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी मेन फंक्शन रहेगा, दैट वुड बी फोकसिंग अपॉन क्या मेथोडोलॉजी अडॉप्ट की जा रही है बाय द नेशनल स्टैटिस्टिकल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. सो प्रॉपर रिव्यू एंड प्रॉपर डिस्कशंस उस एस्पेक्ट पे किए जाएंगे. So this happened in the backdrop of the articles by Dr. Sharmika Ravi and Dr. Vivek Debroi, arguing that the usage of outdated survey methodology by national surveys have systematically underestimated India's development. So ये कुछ concerns share करने के बाद आप focus shifted to these things, and जो concern highlight किया गया कि we are using outdated survey methodology. So obviously with time we need to revisit कि हम क्या methodology use कर रहे हैं. Is it in sync with the current times, the current changes, the current evolutionary things that we are seeing? So इसकी वजह से it is being said कि since हम outdated survey methodologies के ऊपर dependent हैं, हम still वही use कर रहे हैं, तो जो इंडिया की डेवलपमेंट है उसकी वजह से इट इज बीइंग अंडर एस्टिमेटेड. तो बोला ये जा रहा है कि पॉसिबली जो एज पर द एस्टिमेट्स, जो भी हमें एस्टिमेट्स बता रहे हैं कि इंडिया की डेवलपमेंट इतनी हुई है, इतनी ग्रोथ हुई है, तो देयर इज अ पॉसिबिलिटी कि वी हैव बेसिकली आउटग्रोन. एंड बिकॉज ऑफ दिस एक पूरा वी कैन सी कि यूनियन गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया हैज taken this task and responsibility, and we have basically started with relooking things कि क्या रिफॉर्म्स किए जा सकते हैं. सो नेशनल लेवल डेटा ऑब्वियसली इट इज अ की सोर्स. चाहे आप रिसर्च की बात करो, पॉलिसी मेकिंग की बात करो, डेवलपमेंट प्लानिंग की बात करो, तो पूरी चीज, पूरी वी कैन से कि इंटायर फाउंडेशन ऑफ डेवलपमेंट एंड ग्रोथ ऑफ अ कंट्री इज डिपेंडेंट अपॉन नेशनल लेवल डेटा. नेशनल लेवल डेटा बोल रहे हैं तो जो सर्वेस किए जाते हैं, तो सारी चीज कहीं ना कहीं पूरी फाउंडेशन सर्वेज के ऊपर डिपेंडेंट है. सो दीज सर्वेज आर द एक्चुअल फाउंडेशन ऑफ आवर ग्रोथ एंड डेवलपमेंट. सो इंडिया का सबसे पहला गिग वर्कर्स राइट्स बिल किस चीज के बारे में बात कर रहा है? सो लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड दिस. सो प्रोविजंस ऑफ राजस्थान प्लेटफॉर्म बेस्ड गिग वर्कर्स रजिस्ट्रेशन एंड वेलफेयर बिल. सो दिस इज द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ स्टेट ऑफ राजस्थान जो बिल लेके आ रहा है. सो दिस इज गोइंग टू बी इंडियाज फर्स्ट, मतलब ये नेशनल लेवल पे नहीं है, बट इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ स्टेट ऑफ राजस्थान we'll basically try to understand the provisions more objectively and connected for all India level. So what is this bill proposing? So it applies to aggregators, basically जो digital intermediaries हैं which connects buyers and sellers. उनके केस में भी applicable होगा. Then secondly, primary employers, basically who are individual या organizations which are engaging platforms based workers. So in the case में this bill would be applicable, and it proposes a welfare board which will be comprising state officials, 5 representatives each from gig workers, aggregators, and 2 from civil society. So welfare board एक बनाया जाएगा, and this board it will set up a welfare fund. So board के अंदर एक welfare fund भी होगा. Register platform based gig workers, aggregators and primary employers. They facilitate guarantee of social security. So social security benefits की भी बात की जा रही है. So proper database भी maintain किया जाएगा companies का, workers का. Each worker will receive a unique ID which shall be valid in perpetuity. तो like जैसे हमारे पास आज के टाइम में आधार कार्ड है, तो similarly gig workers के लिए भी unique ID issue की जाएगी, and that would be permanent and unique to and like every individual. So you can see कि welfare board के अंदर welfare fund है. They'll be also looking into different aspects. जब हम गिग वर्कर्स की राइट्स की बात करते हैं, सोशल सिक्योरिटी बेनिफिट्स हैं, एंड प्रॉपर डेटाबेस भी मेंटेन किया जाएगा. सो एक कंसर्न जो हम बोल सकते हैं कि too much of concentration of functions and powers into the welfare board, is it something which is desirable? क्या इसको थोड़ा और we can decentralize? Then moving forward in the recommendations to the government, labor unions, they have previously objected to vague terminologies in this bill that may offer the loopholes to the companies. So जो vague terminologies हैं labor unions ने इनको highlight किया है, तो that needs to be completely cleared and transparent तरीके से चीजें होनी चाहिए. जो बेसिकली टर्मिनोलॉजीज जिनको वेग बोला जा रहा है, दैट नीड्स टू बी डिफाइंड कि उनका क्या कॉनोटेशन होगा, क्या इम्प्लीकेशंस होंगे. अब बात आती है कि फंड्स आएंगे कहाँ से. सो अकॉर्डिंग टू दिस बिल, द बोर्ड जो वेलफेयर बोर्ड क्रिएट किया जाएगा, it will create social security and welfare fund which will comprise contributions made by individual workers. Okay, individual workers भी contribute करेंगे, state government contribute करेगी, and बाकी और भी sources रहेंगे. welfare cess रहेगा which would be a cut from each transaction. So that's there which the aggregator is required to pay. तो जो welfare cess है, again aggregators को welfare cess pay करना पड़ेगा. So ये कुछ different sources हैं जहाँ से funds collect किए जाएंगे. देन वी सी क्या वर्कर्स की राइट्स को रिकॉग्नाइज किया गया है अंडर दिस बिल और नॉट. सो हम यहाँ पे स्पेसिफिकली गिग वर्कर्स की बात कर रहे हैं. सो अंडर द एग्जिस्टिंग लेबर लॉज जो गिग वर्कर्स हैं, दे आर नेम्ड एज पार्टनर्स बाय द प्लेटफॉर्म्स एंड दे आर नॉट termed as employees because there is not a fixed term of employment. So that is marked by providing exclusive service to one provider for a specified duration. So इसलिए जो करंट लेबर लॉ है, गिग वर्कर्स दे आर कॉल्ड एज पार्टनर्स एंड एम्प्लॉयज नहीं, क्योंकि दे जो वर्क स्ट्रक्चर है वो इस तरीके से है कि आपने सपोज किसी कंपनी के साथ कोई भी टास्क के लिए यू हैव अग्री टू या आपने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट साइन किया, बट अगेन वो सिर्फ एक पर्टिकुलर टास्क के लिए है. वो टास्क कंप्लीट हुआ तो यू आर लाइक नो मोर रिलेटेड विद दैट पर्टिकुलर कंपनी और एनी इंडिविजुअल. So we see key code on social security that was passed in 2020 and yet to be implemented. It carried restrictive criteria about eligibility, which are done away with the Rajasthan bin and technology and labor researcher with the Center for Internet Social Security. So the bill states that any person has a right to be registered the minute they join an app-based platform, regardless of the duration of the work or how many providers they work for. So basically, this is what the bill is saying कि जो भी इंसान गिग इकोनॉमी में एंटर करता है एंड अपना पहला टास्क मिलता है या जो भी टास्क मिलता है, इट इज इम्पोर्टेंट फॉर देम टू गेट रजिस्टर्ड. इसके अलावा वेलफेयर बोर्ड इट इज एक्सपेक्टेड टू फॉर्मुलेट स्कीम्स फॉर सोशल सिक्योरिटी and listing only the accidental insurance and health insurance and other benefits concerning the health, accident, education they may be prescribed. So unions, labor unions जो हैं उन्होंने recommend किया है कि जो benefits available होंगे to gig workers that should be enumerated clearly in the bill. So यहाँ पे थोड़ी ambiguity है. And another responsibility the welfare board unions say should be to assist the workers in negotiating the contracts by developing standard formats and principles for aggregators. So जितने भी aggregators हैं, they are working in the gig economy, तो उनके लिए एक proper standard of format create किया जाना चाहिए जो सबको, जितने भी platforms हैं, aggregators हैं, उन सबको follow करना important हो जाएगा. And जो standards रहेंगे that would be in the context of कि negotiation of contracts जो भी किए जाएंगे तो वो standards follow करना important होगा. So ये चीज भी missing है in the bill. So अगर workers को कोई problem है तो वो कैसे address करेंगे उसको. तो let's see कि क्या ये bill इसके बारे में बात करता है या नहीं करता. So gig workers they have an opportunity to be heard for any grievances with entitlements, मतलब entitlement से related कोई problem है, payment से related है, benefits provided under act अगर वो नहीं मिल पा रहे तो इन अगर किसी भी topic से related उनको problem है तो वो एड्रेस किए जा सकते हैं. सो एज पर द सेक्शन 15 वर्कर कैन फाइल अ पिटिशन फिजिकली बिफोर एन ऑफिसर या ऑनलाइन भी आप पिटिशन फाइल कर सकते हो थ्रू द वेब पोर्टल. सो एम्प्लॉयर कैन ऑब्जेक्ट टू द ऑर्डर, 90 डेज का टाइम दिया जाएगा एम्प्लॉयर को. सो एपेलेट अथॉरिटी के बिफोर इट कैन basically object, and several reports they have documented ineffective and unresponsive redressal mechanisms. So obviously redressal mechanism होना ही अपने आप में complete चीज नहीं है. उसको कैसे implement किया जा रहा है, effectively implement किया जा रहा है, use किया जा रहा है या नहीं, वो actually इसकी results के बारे में, इसकी performance के बारे में हमें clearly बताएगा. So urban company workers they are currently protesting the arbitrary blocking of their accounts and lack of support. So अब वो लोग कहाँ जाएं? Proper grievance redressal mechanism नहीं है, उनको proper steps नहीं बता कि कहाँ पे उनको अपनी complaint फाइल करनी है, किसको अपनी complaint फाइल करनी है, कैसे फाइल करनी है. So ये ambiguity सबसे पहले एड्रेस की जानी चाहिए. सो अगर कोई प्रॉब्लम है तो अक्यूज्ड क्या वी कैन से कि एग्रीगेटर्स कैन दे बी हेल्ड अकाउंटेबल और नॉट. सो एग्रीगेटर्स की ड्यूटी है अंडर द बिल, इट इंक्लूड्स डिपॉजिटिंग वेलफेयर सेस ऑन टाइम. सो जैसे कि हम यहाँ बात कर रहे थे कि जो वेलफेयर बोर्ड क्रिएट किया गया है, जो उसके अंडर वेलफेयर फंड है, तो फंड्स आएंगे कहाँ से. तो वन सोर्स इज कि जो एग्रीगेटर्स हैं उनको वेलफेयर सेस डिपॉजिट करना पड़ेगा. देन अनदर ड्यूटी ऑफ एग्रीगेटर्स इज कि उनको डेटाबेस ऑफ गिग वर्कर्स भी अपडेट करना है फ्रॉम टाइम टू टाइम एंड डॉक्यूमेंट करना है जितनी भी वेरिएशंस हैं इन द नंबर्स विद इन 1 month ऑफ सच चेंजेस. सो अगर वो अल्टीमेटली इफ दे फेल टू कंप्लाई, So they will be fined up to rupees 5 lakh for the first offense, 50 lakh for further violations. So जो primary employers हैं, they will pay up to rupees 10,000 for the first offense and rupees 2 lakh for the subsequent violations. So this is about the accountability. So apart from the ethnic violence in Manipur, एक और issue emerge होता हुआ दिखाई दे रहा है. So people of Manipur, they have asked Assam Rifles to push back around 718 refugees from Myanmar. तो इसके अराउंड एक पूरी अलग डिबेट स्टार्ट हो चुका है. So the state sought a detailed report from the border guarding force on how many refugees they were allowed to enter illegally, and officials in Chandel advised to oversee implementation of the pushback. So refugee crisis की बात करें and ensuring basically India के context में we are talking about कि we are firstly we're not signatory to the UN Convention on Refugees, but despite that ऐसा नहीं है कि we deal with them in a very harsh manner, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. But we see कि refugee crisis की वजह से how it creates local tensions and how India actually deal with them. How do we actually ensure कि जो refugee की basic rights, basic human rights हैं, how we are ensuring कि उनके education rights, employment rights, training, job उनको provide करना, and जो basic identity है, documents provide करना, how we are working upon them. So Twitter has changed the bird logo with X. So that's how the new logo of Twitter looks like. That's a small update, and see what are the other developments. Moscow and Crimea hit by drones. Russia bombards ports in Ukraine's south. So again, अब यहाँ पे Russia it is bombard the ports of Ukraine. So कौन से ports हैं यूक्रेन के, क्या उनकी लोकेशन है, ये आप देख सकते हो. You can locate them on the map. This is something important from the map work क्योंकि ऐसे questions आते हैं specifically from Central Asia, and this year also we saw the question that which all countries border Ukraine. So ये सब चीजें अगर आप daily basis पे follow करोगे तो obviously it will not be a problem in memorization. Then political uncertainty in Spain. So inconclusive vote. So despite elections, we are not seeing any result who actually wins. So Socialist Workers' Party leader and the current Prime Minister, they are at the executive committee meeting in Madrid. You can see them. So economy is facing new difficulties according to China. So this is going to be another global concern because again, China के ऊपर several countries are dependent in terms of raw materials, and again, अगर Chinese economy that is not performing well, वहाँ पे we are seeing disruption. So obviously जो global economy है उसके ऊपर direct impact हमें देखने को मिलेगा. And again, these days we are again seeing कि are we heading towards a recession or not? क्या मतलब anytime sooner or later we expect the recessionary conditions. So China's top leaders said key economy it was facing new difficulties and challenges. So it pointed out the current economic operation in facing new challenges mainly due to insufficient domestic demand. So domestic demand बहुत weak है. Operational difficulties face करने को मिल रही है for the enterprises. High risk है and hidden dangers in key areas, complex and severe external environment. So these are some of the concerns जो चाइना ने हाईलाइट किए हैं. Coming to the business page, so SEBI eyes instant settlement for the market trades next year. So अभी recently हमने देखा कि T+1 settlement को implement किया गया है. So now SEBI is talking about instant settlement. मतलब suppose अगर आप trade कर रहे हो या invest करते हो पैसा and again आपको withdraw करना है. तो अभी क्या होता है कि trading day plus one more day is taken to settle that and उसके बाद आप पैसा withdraw कर सकते हो if you have made some profit. But again, instant settlement में क्या होगा कि immediate basis पे you will be able to withdraw your money. But again, this is a very demanding task. Technology stack that we have in the UPI facility, it is provided by banks that offers this opportunity. So if someone wants to settle the trades instantaneously, it can be done according to the chairperson of SEBI. So given कि आज के टाइम में हमारे पास जो टेक्नोलॉजी है, that has made the instant settlement possible. So next year it would be a reality also. So Eurozone की बात करें तो the slump it renews the fears of recession. So जैसे कि अभी मैं mention कर रही थी, we were talking about the economy of China and their concerns. So even for the Eurozone, for Europe, we see कि it is the performance, the economic performance is slumping, and again, fears of recession increases. So Eurozone business activity, it shrank much more than expected in the month of July. And demand in the dominant service industry हम जो देख रहे हैं वहां पे भी हमें डिक्लाइन देखने को मिला है. So इसकी वजह से again जो fears of recession हैं they have renewed and again this can be the beginning of next we can say global slowdown. So the decline it was broad-based with the Eurozone's two biggest economies, Germany and France, both are in contradictory territory. So again, यहाँ पे you need to now like properly understand and search about कि जो यूरो करेंसी है उसकी परफॉर्मेंस क्या रही है vis-a-vis डॉलर एंड अगेन क्या कंसर्न्स है क्या रीजंस है बिहाइंड फॉलिंग वैल्यू ऑफ यूरो. एंड अगेन जैसे हम आज के टाइम में बहुत बात करते हैं अबाउट डी डॉलराइजेशन इंटरनेशनलाइजेशन ऑफ रुपी. सो नॉट जस्ट इंडिया बट इवन बाकी कंट्रीज भी जो हैं ग्लोबली दे आर ऑल्सो ट्राइंग टू रिड्यूस द डिपेंडेंस अपॉन डॉलर. सो क्या ऑल्टरनेटिव्स पॉसिबल है, कैन यूरो रिप्लेस डॉलर और नॉट. सो इन लाइंस पे भी आपको सोचने की जरूरत है. Moving forward, so the Kharif sowing turns around to rise 1.2% amid the excess rain. So we are seeing regional disparity even in terms of the rainfall, but जो हमें improvement देखने को मिल रही है that in the Kharif sowing. So ये कहीं ना कहीं जो हमारे आने वाले time में concerns about the rising food inflation वो थोड़ा उस area में it can help us. Coming to Financial Express newspaper, so let's see the important and some new topics. So instant settlement की हम बात कर चुके हैं. So no loan boons. So government has instructed all the banks, दोनों public and private sector banks की harsh steps that needs to be taken when it comes to the process of loan repayment, and they should approach the matter with humanity and sensitivity in mind also. मतलब you can't go too harsh also. So again, ethical angle also comes in. Industrial license is now going to be valid for 15 years. So this move is announced to promote ease of doing business. इसके अलावा you need to know about कि और बाकी क्या measures लिए गए हैं. So here we see simplified compliance के तरफ. We see all industrial licenses जो भी issue किए गए by IDR Act, they will now be valid for 15 years. Validity of license, it can also be extended for further 3 years. And then government issues licenses under the Industries Development and Regulation Act. So norms for industries brought on par with the defense product units. So banks have been told to avoid merciless steps. जब हम लोन प्रीपेमेंट की बात करते हैं तो again जो हम बात कर रहे थे about the ethical angle that also comes in. So Ujjwala scheme LPG bottle refills it remains low. So जो schemes mention की जाती है again आप उनके बारे में थोड़ा सा जो basic provisions हैं वो find out कर सकते हो, you can understand them. So cotton industry is going to see revival in financial year 24. So we're talking about cotton industry. Cotton cultivation की बात नहीं कर रहे, but even in the context of cotton cultivation, जो important चीज आपको पता होनी चाहिए, the climatic conditions which are suitable for cotton cultivation and then cotton industry की हम बात करें, so क्या challenges हैं, कहाँ पे we have the potential of growth. So this you can look into and have we see की we are anticipating a revival with the sales volume expected to grow by 5 to 7%. And so what are the factors of optimism for the cotton industry? So that includes the alignment of the Indian cotton prices with the international prices, a shift in the demand from competing nations, gradual recovery in the demand from China. So ये कुछ factors हैं on the basis of which we can see and we can say कि आने वाले time में it is going to be a good year for the cotton industry. So 19-year wait ends for ITC hotels. So 120 hotel chain has been pursuing an asset-light strategy. So 19 years after it merged with its parent ITC Hotels, it has once again got a separate identity. And the journey since August 2004, it has been creditable. Then we see today that the number it has grown to over 120 hotels across 70 plus locations. So definitely there are challenges. And hotel segments account for more than 20% of ITC's capital employed, but contributes less than 5% of the revenue and the profits. So there is some gap over here. That's like small update. So Tata Steel profit that also drops 92% because Europe may we are seeing demand is falling, manufacturing is falling. So again हमने आज यूरोजोन की बात करी कि the fear of recession again renews. क्योंकि जो performance है of entire eurozone that is not up to the mark and it's not promising. Coming to Indian Express newspapers, so here we see exposed and shut. Panama Papers law firm outsourced its offshore deals to Kerala accountant, and ED probe is on over this. So not denying the links, earned 1% commission. Why should Indian agencies be involved? According to Matthew George. So even after it came under the global scrutiny, Mossack Fonseca, the controversial law firm, it exposed in 2016 the Panama Papers investigation as a key hub for illicit global money flows, outsourced its offshore transactions to a network of companies which are linked to Indian citizens based in Kerala. So now the Enforcement Directorate, the Financial Intelligence Unit, and Income Tax, they have been tracking the chartered accountant. So the person is Matthew George, who has allegedly been doing third-party collections for Mossack and its clients under agreements signed just weeks after the global expose. So this is going to be the venue for G20 meeting. Tradition meets modernity. So let's understand what are the traditional elements. So PM is going to inaugurate the new convention center on Wednesday, and that's how it looks, the aesthetic views of the venue. International Exhibition cum Convention Center. So what's inside? So approximate cost has been rupees 2,700 crores, and the work on it began in 2017. So the IECC complex, it has been developed as India's largest meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions destination. Now it is among the top 10 exhibition and convention complexes in the world. And apart from this, the capacity of the multi-purpose and plenary halls, it is larger than the Sydney Opera House, which has a seating capacity of 5,900 in all the halls. So it is going to be India's largest conference and exhibition venue. That's how it looks from inside. So bringing the state-of-the-art facilities together with the traditional art, the new International Exhibition cum Convention Center at the redeveloped Pragati Maidan Complex, which is going to be venue for G20 Summit in September, is set to be India's largest conference and exhibition venue. Prime Minister would be inaugurating it, and I'm just looking for what are the traditional elements in terms of its architectural designs. So the convention, the architectural design, it is inspired from India's traditions, showcases India's confidence and conviction in its past, while also embracing modern facilities and the way of life. So like talking about few elements. So the building's elliptical shape, it is inspired by the shank or the conch shell, while its walls and facades, they have several elements of the traditional art. And among the themes which are depicted, they are the Surya Shakti, which highlights India's efforts towards solar energy, Zero to ISRO, which showcases achievements in space, then Panch Mahabhuta, which highlights five elements like sky, air, fire, water, and earth. So these are few of the architectural elements and the designs which have been incorporated into its infrastructure and construction. So the High Court to Goa says, or it basically orders to notify the Mahadi Sanctuary as a tiger reserve within 3 months. So it is located in Goa. So Mahadi is a river and there exists Mahadi Wildlife Sanctuary. So the Goa bench of the Bombay High Court Monday directed the Goa government to notify it as the National Tiger Conservation Authority's communications and plans prepared by the Goa Forest Department as a tiger reserve under the Wildlife Protection Act within 3 months. So you can see in this picture, President Draupadi Murmu speaks with probationers of Indian Forest Service 2022 batch and officers and the officer trainees of the Indian Defense Estate Service at Rashtrapati Bhavan. So she said that environmental conservation is a key concern for the 21st century. So she said that environmental degradation, depletion in the forest cover, global warming and climate change are at the center stage of global discourse as well. So definitely these officers are going to play an important role at the ground level. failure of the commission, talking about the women's commissions, they are bogged down by too much of paperwork, too few field visits, and the political appointments. So all of this basically somewhere interferes with the real functions and the actual results of the work done by the women's commissions. So in case of Manipur, the National Commission by its own admission had received a large number of complaints and then they were forwarded to the state. So amid the turmoil, the state police or its other wings probably they ignored the forwards or they did not have time to do justice to each of them. So they should be heard and held accountable for each and every complaint that was sent to them. But if the commission by its own admission, it was inundated with complaints, would merely forwarding them be the right course of action or not? So should it not have sieved through and handled them urgently as per the gravity of each complaint? Should they not visit the regions and the towns from where they are receiving the multitude of complaints? So why is this not actually happening? So it was established in 1992 as per the National Commission for Women Act 1990. So it means this is statutory body. So it is expected to take up the concerns of women at the national level seriously. So it is also going to consist of persons of ability, integrity, and standing who have had the experience in law and legislation, trade unionism, committed to increasing employment potential of women, administration, economic development, health, education, or social welfare. So they are expected to investigate and examine all the matters related to safeguards and provided for the women under the Constitution and other laws. So this is what we actually expect from the women commissions. So yesterday we were talking about King Mihir Bhoj. So this was in the context of there was proper like uproar in Haryana over the inauguration of the statue. So who was Mihir Bhoj? So he reigned between 836 to 885 CE, and that was a successful and ambitious ruler of the 9th century India, said the Kurukshetra University's Professor S.K. Chell. So at that time, the Gurjar Pratiharas, they were ruling over the vast empire from Kashmir to Gujarat. So Mihir Bhoj, he successfully conquered areas of Deccan and Malwa as well. So during the 9th century, the major political struggle was for control over Kannauj as we know it, and we have also like read about the tripartite struggle at that point of time. So as it was considered that whoever conquered Kannauj would be emperor of the country. So hence the country it witnessed, see here it is also mentioned the tripartite struggle among the three big powers of the times. So the three powers involved the Gujjar Pratiharas, the Rashtrakutas of the Deccan and Palas of Bengal. So in this entire struggle, Mihir Bhoj, he was by and large the most successful and he conquered areas of Gujarat and Malwa from the Gujarat Rashtrakutas. So similarly, we see that the king had launched a campaign towards Bengal also and conquered territories of Gorakhpur from the Palas of Bengal as well. So he was quite successful in his expeditions, and that's what that was his role. So over 4 crore IT returns have been filed so far in the financial year 24, and 7% of them are the new filers. So direct tax collection has been registering strong growth. So जब हम डायरेक्ट टैक्स कलेक्शन की बात करते हैं तो अगेन यहाँ पे क्रोनोलॉजी ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाती है कि प्रॉपर क्रोनोलॉजी की मैक्सिमम अमाउंट ऑफ रेवेन्यू इज जनरेटेड फ्रॉम which source: indirect taxes, direct taxes, GST, corporate tax. So that also needs to be clear to you. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining us in today's analysis session, and I hope the topics and different nuances that we raised and tried to understand are clear to all of you. So do subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and stay tuned every day for such informative analysis sessions for newspaper and the relevant articles in the context of the UPSC Civil Services examination.